Take a look at this. A simple positive electric plug. Normally, it's just used for connecting to a socket. But today, you'll be surprised to see how it can turn into a compact and surprisingly useful TV antenna. With just a bit of basic knowledge and a few simple steps, I'm going to show you how to transform this everyday item into something completely new. So let's dive in and see how it works. I prepared 2 small pieces of wire, each about 15 centimeters long, roughly 6 inches by standard measurement. This length is perfect for easy handling during the assembly without getting tangled. To get ready for connecting to the secret tool I'm about to make, the first step is to strip a short section of insulation from one end of both wires. Use pliers with just the right amount of pressure, not too much, so you don't damage the core inside. Next, on the other ends of both wires, strip off a slightly shorter section of insulation than you did earlier. And here it is, our secret tool, 2 simple nuts, or more precisely, a pair of nut and bolt sets. Sounds pretty basic, right? But what if I told you that with these, we can create a kind of secret weapon that boosts signal reception for this antenna? Now, take the longer strip copper ends of the 2 wires and attach them to the bolts. 1 wire to each bolt. Tighten them firmly enough to hold the wire securely, but not so tight that you risk snapping or deforming the copper core. Next, I'll take the remaining copper ends and connect them to the positive plug we disassembled at the start of the video. Make sure they're secured tightly for good electrical contact, as this will be the key connection that keeps the antenna stable and effective. Hard to believe, right? Who would have thought that such a tiny bolt could pick up signals? If you trust me, stick around until the end of the video to see for yourself how well it really works. Let me explain a bit about how this works. The metal bolt acts like a conductor, capable of catching and guiding electromagnetic waves from the air. When paired with a copper wire, it channels the signal straight to the plug and into the receiving device. And if you combine multiple bolts or connect them together, the signal strength and stability improve significantly. If you find this explanation interesting, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Your support really motivates me to keep sharing more cool tips and tricks. And that's it. The preparation is done. Now, let's move on to the next step. Don't get too excited yet, because the most interesting part is still coming up. In my hand is a negative power plug. I know many of you might not be familiar with this type of plug, but don't worry. You'll see in a moment how perfectly it pairs with the part we just prepared. Take a look. All you need to do is carefully take this plug apart. No need to rush. Just do it slowly so you don't damage any parts. Once it's open, set aside on the table for the next step. I've got a leftover piece of cable from before, and it's still perfect for this video. No need to worry about the length. It just needs to be comfortable enough to work with. We'll connect one end of the TV antenna wire to the female power plug. At this initial step, just strip a section of insulation, keeping the copper core along with the metal shielding intact. This prepares a wire for connection while ensuring stable signal. Let me tell you a story about a power plug from World War II, just to keep you entertained while I work, and so you can learn a little interesting history. Back in the 1940s, as the war spread across Europe, engineers and soldiers faced shortages of basic electrical components. At that time, a power plug was more than just a simple item for connecting electricity. It was considered a crucial part of temporary communication systems and mobile signal stations. People often had to reuse, repair, or even craft plugs from leftover materials, sometimes salvaging metal from broken devices to meet military needs. Some plugs were specially designed to resist moisture, dust, and impact because in wartime conditions, they had to perform under harsh circumstances. A famous story tells of a group of British Army engineers who created a mini antenna from a power plug and leftover copper wire. They used it to improve radio communication signals between distant outposts, and the results were remarkable, much clearer signals compared to the standard equipment at the time. From these experiences, some insulation, anti-interference, and wiring techniques were later adapted into civilian devices, and you can still see these influences in the plugs we use today. What's fascinating is that, despite their simple and rugged appearance, wartime plugs worked extremely well. When you look at such small items, you realize that human creativity and the spirit of overcoming challenges are truly impressive. And that's why today, when I hold a similar plug to make a TV antenna, I don't just see it as a technical object. It feels like holding a small piece of history, full of intriguing stories. Once the antenna wire is connected to the female power plug, the next step is to wrap the connection with tape. This secures a wire and protects the copper core and shielding, ensuring the signal remains uninterrupted. For the remaining end of the wire, I'll thread it through a plastic base. The base has a round bottom and a tubular body, with a hole near the bottom to feed the wire up the tube. This secures the antenna in place, keeping it upright and ready for the next steps. Once the wire is threaded through, the next step is to handle the remaining end of the antenna wire. This completes the antenna, ensuring all connections are secure and the device is ready to use. If you're not sure where we left off or feel a bit lost, feel free to rewind a little to catch up. Don't worry, going back a bit can actually help you follow the steps more securely. Now, we'll attach the two connectors, one straight F connector and one 90-degree F connector, to the remaining end of the antenna wire. Make sure they're snug, as this will be the direct contact that ensures the signal is transmitted clearly and steadily. Back then, after the war, childhood was tough for many of us. To get a TV antenna, families had to make one themselves or use leftover materials. From copper wires and old plugs to items that seemed ready to be thrown away. Every time they finished assembling one, it felt like a major victory. And it's really exciting to see that today on YouTube, viewers are so interested in recycling things that are almost forgotten, turning them into useful tools. It shows that creativity and the joy of discovery remain alive, no matter the era. While watching this video, are you a bit skeptical about my idea? Or wondering if it really works as I'm showing? Don't worry. Keep watching and see for yourself. Right now, the TV has no signal, so you won't see any picture yet. This is the perfect moment to test the antenna we just assembled and see if it works as expected. I hadn't even finished my sentence when the TV displayed the signal as soon as I plugged it in. It's surprising and really fun to see it work instantly with no waiting at all. Have you ever thought that something you'd normally throw away could turn into a surprisingly useful tool? That's exactly the spirit I want to share through this DIY TV antenna project. I just went through the experience of transforming simple materials, a power plug, leftover copper wire, and a small bolt, into a fully working antenna, and the feeling is absolutely amazing. What's even more fascinating is that this experience doesn't just deliver technical results. It also brings back memories of childhood and the spirit of making do. After the war, many families had to use whatever was left to build antennas. Copper wires, plugs, and even items that seemed ready to be thrown away. Each time they completed one, the sense of joy and pride was immense, like conquering a big challenge. Even today, DIY and recycling still bring similar joy. On YouTube, I see many viewers interested in repurposing items that would otherwise be discarded, turning them into useful tools. It shows that creativity isn't just a skill, it's also a source of joy, a way to engage with the world actively and smartly. Moreover, building your own antenna helps you understand how it works, from signal conduction, shielding against interference, to installation for optimal reception. Every step is educational, training patience, precision, and observational skills. When the TV displays a signal as soon as you plug it in, the excitement isn't just about the result, it's also pride in what you created yourself. If you find this sharing interesting and want to try it yourself, don't forget to leave a like and hit subscribe. Your support motivates me to continue sharing more DIY tips, creative projects, and inspiring experiences. Try making an antenna by hand, and you'll discover how joy can come from simple things in surprisingly memorable ways.